and welcome to Indie Film Cafe Spotlight on Zoom. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got an awesome guest tonight. I've got Rebecca Rinehart here. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm doing great.
All right. So first of all, I gotta ask, how did you get into the filmmaking business?
By accident, kind of. So I started as a YouTuber and a podcaster, and very big fan of independent horror, did a lot of reviewing, eventually started interviewing filmmakers and then like promoting and supporting their films. And kind of eventually I got the idea in my head that I could probably do it myself after I talked to enough of them, and that I had made enough connections and that kind of thing. So just getting into like the acting part of it, I think it's my first person who I was like interviewing, who's become one of my mentors, Tim Ritter, was like, hey, we're going to film a couple scenes. You're going to be in them, you know? And then like after somebody finds out Tim Ritter put me in a movie, then it's like all these other like shot on video guys like Donald Farmer's like, well, then you need to be in my movie and whatever. And so I eventually started doing some auditions from people who weren't my friends and started landing some roles. And then eventually I ended up on a project as an actress, and what it really needed was a producer. And so I jumped in as producer. My sister came in as a co-writer, and we started promoting this movie and started doing the Indiegogo. We had a falling out with the writer and director. So we were like, okay, forget it. We're just going to make our own movie. And we had already had an idea. And the whole intention was, let's like do this other project where we're kind of, ancillary and just kind of get our feet wet, kind of figure out all the ropes. And then we'll do our own movie. It just kind of happened a little bit faster than we thought. So we had already had the idea for the embalmers. And we didn't have a script at that point in time, but we were driving to a lot of conventions. And we'd be in the car for hours and hours, and we'd kind of talk about, oh yeah, this is how we should have them do this and da-da-da-da-da, and we didn't really have anything on paper. So once we put it on paper, it was pretty fast. And, we had our Indiegogo for the embalmers, and now we're going to be shooting in September.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's amazing. Especially I like that you're talking about how you're doing a project before and things didn't work out, and and instead of just kind of giving up, like some people do with like some people are like, oh, this didn't work out, so maybe I'm not cut out for the industry or whatever, which is, to me, that's just that's not the right way to look at it. The right way to look at it is the way you are looking at it. Go, let's fucking do it ourselves.
Yeah. And I mean, I come from industry. I mean, that's the other thing too, is I worked in an industry for 20 years. And I like to say that I'm like 2 trophy wives and a classic Corvette away from a midlife crisis. Like I got divorced, started doing all this like promoting stuff. I quit my job. But it's been a good thing. It's been really good. But having been, in a leadership position for 20 years, I know that you just can't give up at the first shot, and that if something goes wrong, it's your fault, no matter what. If you're the leader of the project, then you have to take responsibility. And I already have a thick skin, and so that's kind of one of the downfalls I've seen from a lot of independent directors, especially, who they have a really great idea, and then they surround themselves with some people who can kind of make it happen, but they don't have the ability to actually lead those people. And they end up letting those people, drive the ship. And then when they try to take back over and they try to grab the wheel, it's like, no, you haven't been here. You don't even know how to work this boat,
Right, exactly.
And then they kind of just go, give up. So
well,
I'm a stubborn bitch. I will, if I put my mind to something, I do it. I get it done.
And I'll agree with you on that, because like I used to sort of be like that myself too, like the other way that you were describing, like the person who didn't know what he was fucking doing, and he thought, like when I first got into the business, it was like 2009, 2010-ish, and everything, and just starting out with short films, right? So that was my learning thing. and I still haven't done like a actual feature yet, right? Like, like haven't made one, which is not a, is it's being worked on. There is something, but it's like, doing a lot of short films. Sometimes even short films, people will start trying to take over or, do this or do that. And, as the director, I had to learn how to get like a backbone and tell people to back off, and everything. And this industry is hard. It is not an easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Well, and it's not lucrative. And that is where one of the things that you will run into problems if you are an aspiring filmmaker. You will run into problems in the indie world because it's not lucrative. There's not a lot of money going around. And those of us who are like at the head of these projects that we absolutely adore and care about, we aren't getting much money, if anything, anyway. So when you have people who are just kind of casually coming in and out of your project, they're not going to care as much as you do because they don't really have any skin in the game.
Exactly. No, I agree with you. So I want to go back to the fact that you love shot on video films, right? Like,
Yes,
did you grow up on
that?
I know, but did you grow up on that?
Yes. So I was a video store rat, very small town in Indiana. As an adolescent, summers, not much to do. Always go to the video store, pick up a couple movies, and I always loved horror. And so back in this time, which we won't say when, you went to the video store and like you based everything on what the cover looked like. And it was like the crazier the cover, the more intrigued I was by it. And oftentimes these shot on video movies had like the best poster art. And you never really you never knew if you were getting $1 million budget movie or a $10,000 budget movie. I mean,
right.
Just pick them up. And I never really cared. It wasn't until I was older that I realized there was like this distinction and like straight to video and blah, blah, blah. I never really thought about any of those things. I do realize now that the ones I was drawn to were the low budget, not just shot on video, but like low budget, straight to video kind of movies. Those are the ones I still love today. So I would make my friends watch them. And, back when we were adolescents and having slumber parties, it was all great. And then everybody else kind of grew out of it and I didn't.
Right. I feel like because I do Indie Film Cafe and everything. And Paul is really big on picking out movies I've never heard of. But I'm very, I don't know, I like to find movies that we watched last season, we watched Vampire Cop that Donald Farmer did.
Donald Farmer.
Yeah. And it was fun. It wasn't the greatest movie, but that's not what it I don't know. I don't think he was trying to make that even.
That's not what it's about. Yeah. It's about the heart and having fun and making something that's enjoyable to a certain demographic. It's not something that any of these people ever anticipated, people are going to go and by the droves to the theater to see this. No, that's not what they wanted to make. And some of the people who make some of those lower budget movies could make higher budget movies if they wanted to, but that's not what they want to make.
Right. And I think that's awesome. If you are a filmmaker who kind of figured that out, you figured out you want to make a independent slasher movie for the rest of your life, this is what you want to do. And I applaud those people, I applaud people who have a path and they know what they want and they're just going to go out and do that and stuff. And I feel like a lot of times people are confused as to what they want. Even me, I want to do low budget horror movies, but I also want to do bigger budgeted horror movies too, I because I like both, I don't have a specific thing, but a lot of people do just like you yourself. You say you gravitate more toward the shot on video films and everything. And I think that's great.
Yeah, it's just where my passion lies. And it's just kind of one of those things. I'm not exclusive. I mean, I like big budget horror as well. I like other movies besides horror, although it's really rare that I watch anything besides horror, which is really sad. If
Well,
I
is
watch
it because of
something
your
different, it's usually
podcast?
like a weird slapstick comedy or something. Like inappropriate comedy is about the only other thing I watch.
Well, is it because of your podcast that, you watch mainly horror all the time? Or is
No,
it just
it's
because you...
because I watch horror all the time that I have my podcasts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good...
Cause and effect, switch them around. Yeah, I mean, my first podcast, which is In the Mic of Madness, which is kind of my umbrella podcast for SOBs who love SOB, which is my shot on video podcast. They're kind of they're both on the same stream. And that started because I was in some horror groups with people and I didn't have anybody local that I could even talk to about stuff like that. And I started learning the wonderful world of the internet. And like, there are people like me who don't think that I'm stupid. Okay, they just happen to live somewhere else. And then you get the technology together and then, you start doing what we're doing. I mean, we're on opposite sides of the country right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, technology has come so far to where we can actually like be together and we can talk about some of this stuff and it makes you not so lonely. Yeah, right now there's a little bit of necessity, but I mean, I kind of got used to that necessity because I don't have any horror friends that I could just be like, hey, you want to go watch this new movie at the theater? Like, like I don't have that. Or, hey, I just got this new movie in the mail. You want to come over? Like, I don't have those things. And so I developed the podcasts and even my YouTube channel, even though I do that by myself, to be able to talk about those things with other people who are interested.
It's so funny because I was sort of the same in a way, but sort of different. When I got into podcasting, I didn't have a clue. Like this was like 2006. So I had no clue what podcasting was, or I was doing it through Blog Talk, where it was like over the phone, and the first person I ever got on my show is the Canadian filmmaker Brett Kelly, who I'm sure you've heard of him or seen his films and stuff. And he came on my show and chatted with me. And then after that, I was like on MySpace. This is how long ago it was. I was on MySpace and I was just hitting people up saying, hey, do you want to come on my show and talk about your movies and stuff? And then that kind of spurred into like a million friendships, or whatever, like more than just, I became like my roommate, that I have out here, Jackie. She like, we met through, through the MySpace and through Donald Farmer's film, Chainsaw Cheerleaders, and stuff. So, I mean, I feel like, if it weren't for my show, I wouldn't have any friends. It really did help.
In our realm, we have a shallow gene pool. Everybody's connected somehow to everybody else. And like, if you get into it, like people are very willing to talk about their projects. I mean, actors, directors, producers, like people think that people still have that Hollywood mentality that like they're untouchable. But like the first time I ever was like watching a movie and I'm like, I love this movie. Who directed it? Okay, this person directed it. Get on Instagram, find them, send them a message. And then they actually like message me back while I'm watching their movie. Like I was like, oh my God. And now it's just such a common thing. I mean, I don't have any hesitation because I know that it's 99 times out of 100. They're going to want to talk to me. They're going to be appreciative that there's a fan of their work.
Exactly. I'm always like, happy to like tell people like, oh, I loved your film and, this movie or your part in this movie or whatever, and like 9 out of 10 times people are like really excited to talk to you, especially if you like, because I'm one of those people that know people from like things that they never would have expected me to have seen them in and stuff. So I'll be like, oh man, I loved you in that movie. And they'll look at me and go, you saw that?
Somebody saw that movie? They're like,
yeah. Well, like I didn't. I wanted so badly to tell Tom Savini that I really enjoyed him in Zombiegeddon, but I know he's not a fan of that movie.
Yeah, you don't ever want, if there's bad blood, you don't ever want to talk about it.
Well, no, I don't think, it wasn't bad blood. He just didn't think the movie was that good. It didn't turn out that good.
Okay, yeah, I know there are a few that he won't talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But my my funny story on this is Dwayne Whittaker, who played Maynard in Pulp Fiction. Okay,
Mhm.
so like the guy at the pawn shop, right? That's probably his most famous role. He's been in a million things, but that's probably his most famous role, and one most people would be like, "Oh my God, I know you from this." He found my YouTube channel and really liked me, and we struck up a friendship. But because he hit me up, but I'm just like, "Oh man, I love Hobgoblins," and he's like, "We don't talk about that movie," and I'm like, "Yes, we do." Whatever. So I've actually broken him out of his shell to where the last con that he went to, he actually brought a couple copies of Hobgoblins to sell. Like, dude, come on. It's a great movie. I don't care what you think about it. Like, it's enjoyable to somebody. So don't be embarrassed and don't be like, you know, just embrace it. Wave your Hobgoblin flag.
Have you seen the movie Best Worst Movie?
Best worst. Oh, that's about Troll 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just always laugh because watching that movie, I own it on DVD and I love it. Absolutely adore it. Because it really does, show like the love of like bad movies, or whatever, how like we've kind of turned into this world where we just enjoy that, and bad films can actually be embraced in a way. You can't just make a bad movie, you know what I mean? Like,
you can't set out to make an intentionally bad movie,
yeah,
because it won't work.
Yeah,
it has to be an accident.
That's why Birdemic 2 didn't work,
Right.
Birdemic 1 worked flawlessly. But Birdemic 2, they were like, "Oh, we all right, we know people are laughing at this movie, so we're just gonna play fun at it." But
Sharknado too. Even though they knew they were making something parodic to start out with, like they didn't know what they had. And then until it came out and people were like, "Oh my God." And then all the other ones still just kind of like followed suit.
Yeah, exactly. And, the Asylum's kind of known to kind of do that,
But they take other people's stuff and do that.
Sometimes they do their own original stuff. I will give them credit for original stuff sometimes. Crocosaurus versus, was it Mega Shark or whatever,
Yeah.
Those are sort of fun and goofy, and they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. Yeah.
But when you look at these films and what is it in the Best Worst Movie, one of the actress that played like the daughter in the movie, she would leave Troll 2 off her resume, right? And then she would go to auditions and they'll be like, "You look familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Were you in Troll 2?"
Yourself a disservice.
And
it's like people who don't want to admit that, like, they got, like, famous people who don't want to admit that they got their start in horror, or people who don't want to admit that they started on soap operas or whatever. Like, it's like low rent. I'm like, no, you can't do that. You can't erase that from everybody else's memories.
I know. Everybody loves Kevin Bacon and fucking Friday the 13th. I mean, he had one of the best freaking kills, in that movie. So that's one of the Tom Savini kill.
And speaking of Troll 2, Julia Louis-Dreyfus got her start there.
That's true. Holy cow.
She embraces it.
Yeah, and Jamie Lee Curtis. Halloween wasn't whatever, but she was in a couple not the greatest, like Prom Night isn't,
Prom Night. Yeah. Everything's so right. Had a good song. Had a good soundtrack. Disco Madness Kid.
It just was no Halloween, and everything. So she was in a couple Terror Train, but that was, she was there, making her movies,
I say embrace your roots, and because every step that you've made, whether or not it's something that you learned, that you made a mistake on, you learned something, and so it's all part of your journey. You erase any of those things, and it's like suddenly, like, maybe taking that Friday the 13th, maybe like Kevin Bacon was like, you know what, I don't want to do any more of these, which a lot of people were like that. I'm going to take this other thing, and then he ends up in a bigger budget movie. It's everybody's like quote unquote missteps are all learning experiences, no matter what.
You all have to start somewhere. And I think even Johnny Depp is very cool about talking about Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And
Kevin Bacon doesn't talk about Friday the 13th, Like he doesn't show up at any of the conventions or anything, but when somebody asks him about it, he doesn't like poo-poo on it.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, I'm just not singling him out. There are other actors who will do that. They'll be like,
I'm not going to say who the actor was and what movie it was, but I did go up to an actor once and said, I just bought the movie blah, blah, blah with you in it. And I forgot you were coming to this convention, but that's awesome, or whatever that. And he was like, that movie is horrible, and everything.
And if they want to say it's horrible, great. But if it's like, it's horrible, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Well, no, I didn't see it, so I had no idea. But he was like the first. He was like after the first opening, like the first opening is amazing, and then after that, the movie's whatever. And I was like, I don't know, like I almost feel weird about that, because because then if they're bashing a movie that they did, like, and then I worked with them and they didn't have a good time, would they do the same thing for me? Is what I was always thinking. I mean,
because a movie has so many different working parts. Like I just did an anthology. I was the horror hostess, and so I hadn't even seen the segments, and I'm like sitting here introducing them. It's like lower budget. If it tells you anything, it's introduced by Lloyd Kaufman and Toxic Avenger. So it's very campy, and the director was like, okay, like I'll only send you like good reviews that come through. Like I won't send you the bad ones. I just want you to know that there's going to be, a lot of people who are going to shit on this movie. And I was like, I don't care. I'm like, I did it. I had fun. I'm like, bring on. I don't care. I'm not going to get defensive either. Like I had fun with my part, and I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm going to, distance myself from that. Who cares?
Yeah, no,
I'm
totally.
a little bit different caliber than some of these people, and some of these people have agents that get in their ear and tell them this type of stuff too. But
exactly, and that's another thing, because I see a lot of people online complaining about certain things on, like what is it when a movie has like the like a star on it on the cover, but they're only in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of sucks. Like, I understand that. Like, I understand people complaining about that, because like it really is sort of a thing, like where, okay, this person was in there for 5 minutes and then they died or they never came back.
Yeah, you
or
feel
whatever.
like it's false advertisement.
False advertisement. But then again, a lot of that's due to agents and, I was working on a project. Or that
you could just afford them for like half a day on set.
Yeah.
We would have had this actress in here for like 4 days. We couldn't afford it, but we could afford this one little clip, and that gave us enough to put her name on the cover to help us sell this movie.
Yeah. And I mean, there's other filmmakers who do a lot of cameo movies where like there's just a lot of special guest actors that pop up and everything, and they put those big names that are only in it for maybe 2 minutes on the cover, because people are gonna go, wait, somebody big is in this movie, I'm gonna go see it, and that's awesome. If you can do that, God bless you.
Yeah.
I think so. Whatever. I would love to work with. I did act with Eric Roberts recently, so that was fun.
Ooh, he is in my favorite sci-fi original, Sharktopus, and that one was one that was before when they still were making them seriously. Like it was pre-Sharknado sci-fi. Like
right. Yeah. Even though it was called Sharktopus.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever.
What was there's a bunch of ones that that a lot of names that people have, like a lot of my friends have created that are just so that could be the next Sharknado, like Barricane or something, like
just put two animals together and
or
whatever. Enough people still watch
Barracuda.
Yeah.
Like whatever, but literally like a bear and a barracuda together.
Yeah, bear.
Isn't that be an interesting one? Somebody make that movie, or
these like hybrid like these hybrid animal movies are like a response to technology that we have, like, you know, genetic engineering and that kind of thing. It is the same. If you go back and you look at the 70s, it's the same as the killer animal movies. You know, just because you had Jaws doesn't mean that every movie that ever was about a killer animal ripped Jaws off. Doesn't mean that all of them are crap. You know, I love Piranha. I love
Piranha too.
Barracuda spelled like real, like a barracuda, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, even, you know, like frogs and, you know, slugs and all these other movies. I mean, it was a genre. And I think it's, you know, you can't say that any of them are like rip-off movies because it's just a genre. Genetically enhanced hybrid animal genre.
That's the beautiful thing about horror, is that we can say that, like, people don't, you know, like, there are subgenres in horror. Like, you can't say that about romantic comedies really that much. You know, there's not that many subgenres of romantic comedy. You know?
Right.
But horror.
But romantic comedies is a subgenre of comedy, so
That's true.
Yeah.
I guess comedies can have a few subgenres, maybe.
But we can take it to like 5 different levels. Like, it's
even
a
more than that.
slasher with a supernatural twist and maybe some demonic possession. That's actually the movie that I'm doing an Indiegogo for right now. Is basically, it's got everything in it. Is the true tale of Bull Splitfoot versus the lesbian warrior nuns of the Great White North.
You said it right. I
practiced it.
Okay. I just interviewed Sam and Smith Marie, and she was like, I think we both said it like a million times differently. You know.
I'm in it, but then I've also come on as a producer with Samantha. So we're working on that now. But it's like, you know, like when people ask you what it's about, be like, just look at the title. That's really what it's about. It's
right.
Like, we got demons, we got zombies, we've got nuns, we've got strippers,
lesbians.
We've got Canada. I mean, we've got everything.
Sounds like I've been supporting this since Ash first told me about it, you know, and everything.
Ash Hamilton.
Ash Hamilton.
And Ben Harrell.
Yeah, so they, you know, he's been telling me about it and telling me like more information about it and everything. And I've fallen in love with it, so I can't wait for this movie to get done.
It's going to be so much fun. I actually, for my audition, I had so much fun just doing my freaking audition.
Right.
Basically, Ash had just given me the script because he had asked me, you know, like before there was anything really, like, I think there's a poster or whatever. He was like, hey, we're doing this movie in Illinois. Would you be interested in reading for it when it's all ready? And sure. And he sent me the script and was like, I just want to see if anything like jumps out at you, which means they're hoping that something jumps out at you, like something specific. And I started reading this, and like, then the first like few pages, I was like, man, this Nat chick is like crazy. I love her lines. I could have written this. And I mean, she's just like this crusty old, like, she's like the washed up stripper of the bunch. Obviously not incredibly old, but for a stripper, she's old, and she's kind of been around the block, you know, a few times. And you know, between her character, like when I like looked at her lines and everything, I was like, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. And like I said, I believe in this project so much that, even after being cast, when we started the Indiegogo, I was like, hey, I'll help you guys out. And like, they were like, fuck it, you're a producer. We're just putting you on as a producer. Like, that's how much I believe in it, is that I started producing before I was ever even made a producer.
Wow. That's great. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the Embalmers. I'm excited for all your projects. You seem to be kind of putting your, you know, kind of your foot in the water of a lot of different things. And that's great, because if you're able to get out there and continue to make stuff, you know, or whatever, I mean, it's hard. It's not easy, but it's
especially right now.
Especially. Let's talk about right now. You know, like, so did you say you're filming the Embalmers in the fall?
Yes. So with the Embalmers, we had everything, you know, best laid plans, right? We had everything all set up, we had our cast, we had our script, we had everything. And like, I had done a ton of research on and I had been involved in a couple Indiegogo campaigns, and I kind of did a lot of homework on like what worked, what didn't work, you know, what did people gravitate towards, blah, blah, blah. So I had it all like ready. And then one of the things that I realized is if you have something to show for it, people are more willing to give. If you have some kind of like detailed trailer or teaser or something to show, hey, we actually can make this movie. It's not just, we don't have 5 pages of script and like a cool poster, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to make a teaser, which is not the greatest thing in the world. Okay. But it was a proof of concept for more than anything for me to show that I could get a cast together, get something put together, get it kicked out in like a day. And we're really proud of it. And then we started our Indiegogo on March 13th. And we were like, we came out of the gate just like running. I think we got like 25% of our funding on like between day 1 and 2. And then March 15th was when everything started shutting down.
Oh man, bad timing.
My sister Diane Fraker, who is my co-writer, producer, director, she was like, leave it to us to start an Indiegogo campaign right in the middle of a pandemic. But we forged ahead with it. I mean, we kept going with it, but that's making it very hard because people who are the fans of these films, we rely on them. We rely on the fans a lot, and a lot of those fans are having their own economic issues right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge problem. Of course, also you have a lot of productions just kind of up in the air because they don't know if like travel restrictions are going to be okay. We don't know if there's going to be another like wave of COVID. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. And so, yeah. So when I say like September, it's like knock on this plastic chair, almost wooden chair. It's like my fake Adirondack chair, that everything is going to be good by September. I mean, but if it doesn't happen, it's not because I failed. It's just because the world is,
is the way it is right now. Yeah.
And I can say that I have a lot of projects that kind of were spread out over the summer and fall. And I know of a lot of other people who have projects that are like that. And man, I mean, we are all cramming those into like September, October, November, like with major cross fingers.
Yeah. It's a really bad time right now. It sucks. I'm not going to lie, but the beauty is that I have seen the indie film community and especially the horror film community kind of, bless you.
Allergies outside.
So I've seen the indie horror film community kind of band together during this hard time and everything. And I mean, obviously there's still going to be like people who are just like upset or like angry or like this is just making people go nuts, being kind of staying inside and not being able to do a lot of stuff or whatever. But I think this is going to end up being a good thing for everybody,
Yeah, I do too. Cause I think I've seen already, it's given a lot of people like, for example, like Johnny Shandor, who is in my film. She's 8 years old. She's a horror fanatic. She's been going crazy at her house. I mean, because she is just like always at cons and social and loves to cosplay and karaoke and everything else. And she's been taking all of these like acting lessons, like virtual acting lessons. She's like making the most of this. And she's actually written and directed 2 shorts with a lot of the Embalmers people for some like COVID quarantine things. Like we're working on one right now. And it's bonded our cast together because it's been a subset of different ones of us. So our cast is becoming so much more cohesive. We're all getting to know each other better. We're all learning how to work with each other. And then we're also supporting each other. So, we're supporting our fellow filmmaker, Johnny, here, by doing that. So, I mean, I've seen other people, like they've adapted with having like Zoom table reads, that type of stuff. Like, I mean, just because we have to slow down or we have to change the way things are doesn't mean we have to stop. And I think that the indie horror community has been really awesome about that.
Well, I think it's really good. Like, that we were very lucky and blessed that this happened now instead of like 10 years ago or earlier,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know what people would have done in 2000 if this were happening, because like right now we have streaming channels, we have a lot of we have technology like this, that just completely exists, like that's just amazing. So we're lucky and blessed to kind of be living right
Humans
now.
are strangely adaptable. As much as we are creatures of habit, we are adaptable as well.
Exactly. So what else do you got going on? Because you got your podcast. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so my podcast, In the Mic of Madness, we are on the tail end. In fact, tomorrow is the last day of our Friday the 13th retrospective. So I am a huge Friday the 13th girl. We've been going movie by movie. We are actually going to do Never Hike Alone tomorrow, which is Vincent DeSantis' fan film, which has kind of been embraced into canon. Vincent's going to come on the show with us. So we can talk about his movie, and then the movies that he's making now. He's making some shorter ones like Never Hike in the Snow, and he has a whole series of those. And just for us to kind of like start talking about the future of Friday the 13th with all of the legal issues that are plaguing us. I don't know, SOBs who love SOB. We review every couple weeks. We review a shitty SOB movie. And we have we've got the support of the whole SOB community. And I've become pretty good friends with a lot of these people who, it's very strange because I rented their movies when I was like 13, 14. And now I'm like personal friends with them. I mean, and Donald Farmer is like, putting me in a movie and like not even like having me like read the sides, and I'm like, you sure? He's like, yeah. Like I'm like, never when I was a kid watching like Savage Harvest or something. I'm sorry, Savage Vengeance. Savage Harvest is another Shadow video movie too. Like I never would have thought like I would be in a movie from the guy that directed this. Like it was just a complete foreign thing. So yeah, those are my podcasts. I have a YouTube channel, The Not Quite Final Girl. And I do with my co-host, Snickers, the rat terrier. We do a lot of drunken commentaries. That seems to be our popular thing right now, where I watch a movie and just basically, it's usually a movie that I've seen a million times, and I'll just sit there and watch it and tell you guys trivia and comment on it. And, somewhere between pop-up video and like Mystery Science Theater 3000 and like a drunk chick in a recliner with her dog.
That sounds awesome. So don't you also do like a hot tub thing that like hot tub interviews or something, or whatever it is, like something?
I do hot tub horror. So I do that on Facebook Live. So if you follow me, Rebecca Rinehart, just follow me on Facebook. Last summer I wanted a hot tub. I've wanted one for a long time, but I also needed a furnace. So I made a concession to myself. I bought an inflatable hot tub, very much cheaper, whatever. But you can only use it at certain times of the year. But I started it last year, kind of a little bit, just, here and there. And then this year I'm actually trying to do it every Friday since it's been nice. I get in the hot tub, I go live on Facebook sometime in the afternoon or early evening, and I just talk about horror. Now, the problem is right now, I would usually do horror news.
Right.
But right now there's not a lot of news. And so I've been doing some more concept shows. Like 2 weeks ago, I did crap you need to watch on Tubi that you probably haven't seen. So, and I did a deep dive because I've been watching a lot of Tubi in this. I'm like, I had people who were like, oh, Tourist Trap's on there, it's great. And I'm like, no. I'm like, Tourist Trap is great. I'm telling you about flesh-eating mothers and why you should watch that one on Tubi,
So you're suggesting that for people that are watching the show now?
And
go see it.
And that is one that specifically one of my friends recently told me, like she made this post, or she made a comment on one of my posts of like, of some of the stuff I was doing. She was saying how proud she was of me. And she remembers like freshman year of high school, like me like making everybody watch Flesh-Eating Mothers, like, at a sleepover and stuff. And I'm like, look, she remembered.
Well,
legacy.
That's awesome. And we are actually going to have you a special guest. I guess we can announce this because this will actually come out on not this Friday, but the following Friday for this show. And hopefully before then we'll be doing the other show. So hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to,
Fingers crossed.
fingers crossed everything works out for tomorrow. Things keep getting like in the way. We're getting frustrated because this isn't like when we approached you guys, that wasn't the first time, or whatever. That was like the second or third time we've been trying to get this.
Yeah. And this is our third reschedule of a week of Julianne Prescott and myself coming on to the show with you and Paul.
Yeah.
To talk about RoboChick.
Have you watched it yet?
I did. I watched it last night. I got stuck in some split foot producer stuff at the end of it, so I need to rewatch the end because I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. But it was glorious. I actually looked it up because I'm like, this seems really shot on video or just really crappy film. So yeah, it's not shot on video. It was shot on film.
Oh,
but
it
has the spirit, definitely the spirit of the movies that I love.
Well, good. And that's what we at Indie Film Cafe really try to do, is find movies that like not a lot of people know of if we can,
Mm-hmm.
Like
I had never heard of this one. And it had an alternate title. Like when I typed it in to IMDb, it comes up as something completely different anyway.
Right. I always try to find things because, like, that's why me and Paul discovered this, like, did this, is because we would both talk about films that we both knew, and sometimes we both knew the movies, and sometimes he knew movies I didn't know of, and sometimes I had movies he never seen. So we wanted to just watch, these movies, and then freaking why not rate them and review them, and stuff.
Give them a little time in the spotlight when, they probably haven't had any, at least for a few decades.
Right, exactly. So
that's my theory.
I love this, and I love having, because when I was listening to your Forgotten Horror Classics you did with Paul, I was like, okay, this girl is perfect for our stuff, because like you actually, like I remember him talking about Mommy Dearest, and you got all giddy and stuff, and I could hear it in your voice, and I was like, like I'm like, this stuff, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And not just that, I have an appreciation. I think that's what it comes down to too. I have an appreciation for I hate that I didn't have a chance to actually look up trivia and stuff, because that's what I like to really do, is like do a deep dive into the movie to see of all the funny things that happen, like who left and who had to be recast halfway through, and like what foibles they had during production, because it actually has the charm of most of these low budget movies.
Well, don't worry. I guess you didn't have time for that one, right? And
but RoboChick, there is a wealth of trivia on RoboChick so far.
Well, I'm just gonna say, like, because if you couldn't figure things out, if you couldn't find stuff, Paul knows it all. Like this is his jam. Like, this is like something that he knows. Absolutely.
Yeah, he was like movie researcher. I was like, I'm like sitting there trying to keep up, like on IMDb as he's saying everything in real time. I'm like, I feel like a loser.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing with me. I'm very the exact opposite of Paul. Like, I'm very spontaneous, and I kind of like, kind of go with whatever, top of my brain. I don't do a lot of research on these things, which I should probably do. But unless it's like
yin and yang, you guys complement each other.
Exactly. So, well, I want to thank you. So was there any other projects that we did not mention that you want to give a shout out to?
Yes, there is one more. We're starting our Indiegogo on July 1st for Backwoods Bubba, which I am a co-writer of the script. Going to be a wonderful, awesome slasher, just like hardcore slasher. It's about a backwoods dude named Bubba and his little clan who like to kidnap people and put them in little animal outfits and then release them out in the wild to hunt them. So today it was just the pictures were just released of one of our perks that I am freaking excited about. I am an action figure.
Nice.
So go to Backwoods Bubba, look us up on Facebook, go to our page, and or it's actually a group. And then you can start seeing some of the really cool perks that we are going to be offering in about a month.
That's awesome. That's crazy, because like so many Indiegogos have started out again, and I guess it's been, since you guys started your embalmers one in March or whatever, and all this craziness happened, then there wasn't many Indiegogo starting, because everybody
we
knew.
definitely were like, people saw what happened to us, I'm sure, and they were like, no.
Can't let that happen to us, so.
Yeah.
But
bad time.
Exactly. And that's, it was because people were uncertain about money, people are losing their jobs or, whatnot. So I'm happy that more people are out there doing, doing them again and everything. And I want to support as many as I can. So I will, try to help out because, yeah, I mean, I would want people to help me, if I were doing it again, which I don't think I want to, just because it's, like I just don't like bothering people, and that's really what you have to do in a way. And I don't like doing it. I don't mind, like, finding investors or something, or like seeking that out, but like finding people who are, what I mean, like.
Yeah, just trying to like build excitement and enthusiasm and trying to pull people into your circle and that kind of thing. It's a whole other world. I think we're kind of getting to the tail end of the Indiegogo being at least like the major part of funding a movie. I felt like that before, actually. And then once this all happened, I was like, whoop, okay, it's just self-fulfilling prophecy. But
right.
We're gonna have to get creative. But I mean, still the fans are out there and they want to be involved, and so no matter how things get, I think we'll always have fan involvement now financially.
Oh, that's nice. So there you go. So if anybody wants to follow your stuff, how can they follow you?
I'm on Facebook, Rebecca Rinehart. It's Rinehart. Okay, there are about 50 ways to spell that. You can follow me there. Go to Facebook and look up the Embalmers for our group. Also, as I mentioned, Backwoods Bubba is on Facebook. Go subscribe to my podcast, In the Mic of Madness. We're on all of the podcasting platforms as well as YouTube. I'm everywhere. If you don't know how to find me, then wow, I'm not doing my job, because I feel like I whore myself out constantly.
And they should check out your podcast for sure, and everything that you're doing with your YouTube and everything. So I'm really excited. I think, honestly, I love hearing people who are really big into, the horror scene, who talk and love this stuff, because, once again, that's why me and Paul started Indie Film Cafe and started Indie Film Cafe Spotlight and started all these things, is because we just love people who are into this stuff, and we love this stuff, like ourselves. So hopefully we'll be interviewing Donald Farmer at some point, and some other people,
well, maybe when we get Debbie Does Demons going, maybe he and I and Jessa Flux can come on.
That would be great. I've been seeing a lot about that, so I'm excited. It's really funny to kind of see all the different stuff he's doing, was it Shark Exorcist and all the goofy goofy movies.
I'm in big for The Exorcist, but that one's he put that one on hold because Debbie Does Demons is a little bit easier for him to coordinate.
Yeah.
Amongst the COVID stuff. So it's like, I mean, adapt.
We're all dealing with this stuff.
That Bigfoot is just going to have to wait to be exercised for a while.
I know. Well, he'll be exercised soon enough.
He will.
Maybe he should start exercising,
Maybe.
Because that's, unless his name's Robert Pattinson, but,
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, thank you so much. This was great. I had a fun time.
All right. Me too. Thank you for having me. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow when we do this.
Definitely. And everybody have a great day, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little Zoom interview that we did here. Okay. Bye.